Hi, I'm Emma.
I found out about the affair on a Wednesday. Not a dramatic Friday night, not a ruined birthday, not even some dramatic caught-in-the-act scenario. Just a regular, boring Wednesday morning when I was late for work and spilled coffee on my blouse. That's when the universe decided to break me. The email came from an anonymous address, no subject line, just a link and a single sentence. You deserve to know. Normally, I would have deleted something like that. Spam, I would have thought.
But something about it stopped me.
My thumb hovered over the screen for a few seconds, then tapped. The video loaded slowly, as if the internet knew what it was about to show me and wanted to give me a chance to back out. I didn't. I watched it all. Every second. Him. Her. My best friend. His hands, her laugh. My living room. My blanket. My wine glasses. My betrayal. The room was silent except for the sound of my own heartbeat crashing in my ears. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, staring at the screen as it looped back to the beginning, like a nightmare that refuses to end. My brain didn't even register the betrayal at first. It just tried to solve the logistics. When was this? Was I home?
Was I sick that day?
Did they plan it? Was it the first time, or one of many? I rewound the video, not because I wanted to see it again, but because I needed proof that this was real. That I wasn't imagining the way she touched him, the way he leaned in, the familiarity of it all. It wasn't some heat-of-the-moment thing. It looked practiced. It looked ongoing. I sat down, not because I was tired, but because I couldn't stand the weight of my body anymore. I kept thinking back to every conversation, every sleepover, every shared secret between me and her. The way she used to tease me about how I'd bagged the good one. The way she called him bro-in-law before we were even engaged. The way she once whispered, "You're so lucky, girl. He's everything." And all the while, she was taking pieces of him when I wasn't looking. Or maybe when I was. That made me feel worse. I didn't message him. I didn't text her. Instead, I opened a new folder on my phone and titled it Truth. I saved the video there. No edits. No filters. Just truth. Then I opened another app and started going through my photos. Birthday parties, beach days, brunch selfies. I stopped on a photo from just 2 weeks ago. The three of us, smiling at a park. I was in the middle, arms around both of them, like I was the glue that kept everything together. Turns out, I was just the cover. I deleted it. Then I deleted 10 more. But I kept the ones that mattered. The ones where I looked genuinely happy, because I wanted to remember that I had loved with my whole heart. Even if they didn't. That day, I called in sick. I didn't leave my apartment. I didn't shower. I barely moved. I kept thinking back to that night in February when she called me crying because her boyfriend had broken up with her. I stayed on the phone for 3 hours, ordered her favorite takeout, let her crash on my couch. And I remember how she smiled in the morning, thanked me, said, "If I ever get married, I want you to be my maid of honor." And I had laughed, said, "Only if you return the favor." I should have known. Betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people who braid your hair and borrow your shoes. By Friday, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. I wanted more. I needed to understand the whole truth. I needed to know how long, how deep, how deliberate. So I started collecting. Not just receipts, but screenshots, messages, timestamps. I read old texts like a detective, searching for hints I had once ignored. And I found them. Tiny breadcrumbs of betrayal. A photo where they were standing a little too close. A comment she left on his post that felt too flirty. A day he said he was working late, but she had tagged herself in a wine bar across town, his favorite bar. Little things that didn't matter before suddenly screamed the truth. That weekend he came over. Flowers in hand. My favorite drink. He kissed me like nothing was wrong. I let him tell me about work, ask me about my week. I let him lie. Then he said he had to go early, some family thing. I smiled and kissed him goodbye. And the second he left, I opened a new note on my phone and wrote, "He lies easily. Eyes don't twitch. Voice doesn't shake. He's done this before. I wasn't sure why I was writing it down, but it felt like power, like reclaiming the narrative. I knew I wasn't ready to destroy them yet. But when the time came, I wanted every detail. Then came the first twist. 2 weeks later, I got a wedding invite. From them. A joint email. Elegant font. Pale pink border. You are joyfully invited to celebrate the union of... My name wasn't mentioned. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest. I read the names twice. It was real. They were getting married. My ex. My best friend.
No explanation. No epaledi.
Just an invite. Like I was another guest. Like I hadn't been ground zero for their disaster. And the worst part? They'd been planning this, while still pretending in front of me. The timeline made sense now. She'd been with him while helping me plan our anniversary last fall. He'd kissed me while hiding a ring for her in his drawer. I stared at the invite. I saved it. Not because I planned to go, but because I knew I'd need it for what I was going to do next. The thing about betrayal is, once you've been broken, you don't want to break others. You want them to see what they did. Not with screaming or violence, but with undeniable truth. I didn't want to ruin their wedding, because I was angry. I wanted to remind them that lies have weight, and some of us carry them longer than others. But not anymore. I was done carrying what they did to me. I didn't talk to anyone about it. Not my sister, not my coworkers, not even my therapist. I kept everything to myself, and kept collecting. I started backing up everything. Photos, messages, the video, even an old voice memo I had where she drunkenly confessed that she sometimes wished she had someone like him.
It had felt innocent at the time.
Now, it felt like a warning I hadn't heard. I made folders. Labeled everything. I knew I wasn't going to scream at the altar. I wasn't going to crash the ceremony. I was going to let the truth walk down the aisle before they even said, I do. But I still needed one more thing.
Proof they couldn't deny.
I wasn't sure what, but I felt close. Like something was still waiting to be uncovered. So I waited. And then it happened. A week before their wedding, she posted a video on her private Instagram. An account I still had access to because she'd never removed me. It was them. In a hotel room. Champagne. Music. Him kissing her neck, her laughing. The caption read, Our little secret escape before forever begins. And in the background, the TV showed the date and time. The exact same weekend he had told me he was in another city visiting his sick uncle. That was it. That was the nail. I downloaded it, archived it, backed it up 3 times. I knew what I would do.
Not now.
Not tomorrow. But on their wedding day. A day they thought would be perfect. A day built on lies. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to run. I was going to press send. That was all. Just a video. One video. Sent to the right people. At the right moment.
Not to destroy.
Just to reveal. Let them watch their love story unravel in real time. Let them explain it to their guests, their families, their future. I didn't want revenge. I wanted release. And for the first time since that Wednesday, I finally felt like I was close. The morning of their wedding arrived quiet and gray, the sky hanging low as if the weather itself was undecided about whether to shine or mourn. I woke up before my alarm, my body aware of the date before my mind caught up. The invite still sat on my kitchen counter, unopened since the day I'd saved it, but I didn't need to read it again. I remembered every word, every loop of calligraphy that tried to turn betrayal into celebration. Their wedding was set for noon. Somewhere pretty and expensive. Somewhere with chandeliers and glass walls, and the kind of place where people pretended everything was perfect.
I didn't get dressed.
I didn't shower. I stayed in my worn hoodie, hair tied up, no makeup. I sat at my laptop with a cup of tea I didn't plan to drink. My fingers hovered over the mouse. I had already created the message. The subject line was simple, for your viewing pleasure before the vows. Attached were 3 files. The original video of them in my apartment, the hotel video with a timestamp, and the screenshot of her post, smiling, unaware of the TV in the background that would tell the whole truth. I addressed it to the venue's general email, the wedding planner's company account, her sister, his best man, and a few others. I wanted the fallout to be instant.
Precise.
I wasn't looking for chaos. I was looking for understanding. This was who they were. Let their friends and families see it.
No manipulación.
Just proof. But right before I clicked send, I paused. Not out of doubt. Out of instinct. I switched to my other inbox, the one I barely checked, the one I had used for college mailing lists and online orders. And there it was, an unread message from 2 nights ago. No subject. Just the name, Rachel. Another friend. Not best friend level, but someone who'd always been in the group. I clicked it open. It was a single sentence, no greeting. You might want to talk to Jordan's cousin Ava before you send anything. My stomach flipped. I had no idea who Ava was, but something about the message made me open a private browser and start searching. Ava's social media was locked, but her profile photo showed her at a party, arm linked with Jordan, my ex. They were close. Cousins. I looked again, zoomed in, checked tags, and followed a breadcrumb trail of comments until I found a post from a few weeks ago. Ava had been at the engagement party. A photo showed her sitting next to a woman I didn't recognize, captioned, "Always knew it would crash eventually." Timing just had to be right. I felt my pulse spike. There was something here. I sent her a message. Polite.
Direct.
"Hi, I was told I should talk to you about Jordan." I expected no reply. But within 5 minutes, she answered. What she told me was a twist I hadn't prepared for. She knew. She had known for a while. Jordan had a pattern. He had cheated before. Not just with my best friend, but before her too. He'd once slept with a girl 2 weeks before proposing to another. He had a habit of weaving lies so seamlessly that people believed him even when confronted. And now, Ava said, the wedding wasn't just a wedding. It was a transaction. An investment. Her parents had poured money into it, hoping the union would merge 2 family businesses. The whole event was less about love and more about image. They're getting married to impress, not because they're in love, she wrote. She doesn't even know half of what he's done. But she will soon. My hand trembled slightly on the mouse, because suddenly my plan felt different. I wasn't exposing lovers. I was pulling the mask off a carefully constructed illusion. A lie so big it had its own guest list and catering. I thanked Ava. She didn't ask what I was going to do. Maybe she already knew. Maybe she just wanted to watch it burn too. I sent the email at 11:36 a.m. 24 minutes before the ceremony. I didn't write a message in the body. Just the attachments and a line that said, "You should know what you're celebrating." Then I closed my laptop, picked up my tea, and waited. I thought I'd feel a rush. Triumph.
Power.
Something cinematic. But instead, I felt nothing.
Just stillness.
Like I'd finally removed a splinter that had been buried too deep to see. The first ping came at 11:49. An unknown number. Then another. Then a string of messages. Someone named Cassie, one of her bridesmaids. What the hell is going on? Then another from her cousin. Did you send this? Tell me this is fake. And finally, the one I was waiting for. Her. My former best friend. A text so long it filled 3 bubbles before it even landed. I didn't read it. I muted the thread. I didn't need her explanation. The video spoke louder than she ever could. That afternoon, I got an update from Rachel. She had been at the venue.
As a guest.
She said the ceremony was delayed, then canceled. Whispers turned into arguments. Someone's uncle tried to defend him. Her sister cried in the hallway. The planner left early. Jordan vanished. Disappeared before anyone could ask questions. Left her there. In her dress. She stood on the marble steps of that expensive venue and watched everything fall apart. Just like I had. And for the first time, she finally knew what it felt like to be the one left behind. But that wasn't the end. 3 days later, I got a knock on my door. Not a text. Not a call. A knock. I opened it and saw her. No makeup. Hair frizzy. Eyes swollen.
She didn't speak.
Just held up a phone and pressed play. It was a video. Of him. With another woman.
One I didn't know.
The timestamp was last week. She had found it in his deleted folder after the wedding crashed. She looked at me with hollow eyes and said nothing. I didn't invite her in. I didn't hug her. I just nodded once. And she walked away. The irony hit hard. She had betrayed me for him, and he had betrayed her the same way. That wasn't karma. That was a pattern finally coming full circle. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't his first broken heart, but she wasn't my last betrayal either. The real twist wasn't that they cheated. It was that they were never real to begin with. They were always borrowing pieces of each other to build a version of love that looked good from the outside. But nothing strong can be built on lies. Not weddings. Not friendships. Not even memories. I could have posted it all online. Could have ruined their reputations publicly. Could have told everyone. But I didn't. I kept it. Not for silence, but for strength. Because in the end, I didn't need revenge to heal. I just needed truth. And now I had it. That night, I cleaned my apartment. Threw out the wine glasses, the shared blanket, the notes we used to write. I replaced the couch pillows. Bought a new mug. I started fresh. Quietly. Not with fanfare, but with intention. I planted a small herb garden on my windowsill. Basil. Rosemary.
Mint.
Something about growing new things made me feel lighter. Made me believe that endings weren't always losses. Sometimes they were clearings. A month later, I ran into Rachel again. She told me that Jordan had left the city. That he was avoiding calls. That no one really knew what happened. But some people suspected. They had seen the video. Someone had leaked it.
Not me.
But someone. I didn't ask who. I didn't need to. I had already moved past the wreckage. And she? She had deleted her accounts. Left social media entirely. Disappeared from the feeds she used to post every hour. I guess she needed time to rebuild too. I never heard from Jordan. Not once. Not even a last-ditch excuse. Maybe he thought I'd feel guilty. Maybe he thought silence was safer. But he was wrong. His silence was proof. Proof that I had made the right decision. That I had walked away from a lie that didn't deserve to be told anymore. And, as for me, I was okay. Not instantly. Not easily. But slowly. Quietly. Like healing always is. One morning, I got a message from someone new. A guy from a volunteer group I joined. His message was simple. Hey, I noticed you're always early. Want to grab coffee after the next shift? And for the first time in a long time, I smiled and typed back. Sure. Not because I was ready for something new, but because I finally knew what I deserved. Not perfection. Not drama. Just honesty.
And peace.
The coffee with him was supposed to be simple. One drink, one conversation, and then move on. But life doesn't always follow the quiet plans you make after heartbreak. Sometimes it nudges you, slowly, gently, towards something you weren't expecting. He asked questions, not nosy, not forced, just real ones. What made you join the group? What book are you reading? What's your favorite way to waste time? I hadn't answered questions like that in a long time, without overthinking. But with him, it felt okay to be unguarded. Still, I didn't tell him everything. Not yet. He didn't know about the video. Or the betrayal. Or the wreckage left behind. That part of me was still too raw to unwrap. But he smiled when I spoke, like every word mattered. And that was enough for now. For a few weeks, I let myself feel normal again. No video watching. No folder sorting. No late-night replays of what they did to me. I gave my mind room to breathe. I went on walks. Tried new recipes. Cleaned the corners of my apartment I used to avoid. I didn't check her social media, though I heard from Rachel that she still hadn't come back online. I didn't care where Jordan had gone. He had always been more shadow than substance, anyway. But just when I thought it was all over, the past knocked again. This time, in a different form. An envelope. No return address. My name scrawled in familiar handwriting. I stared at it for 10 minutes before opening it. Inside was a folded letter and an old photo. The letter was short, just a few lines written in shaky pen. I thought you should see this. Some truths take longer to reach us.
I'm sorry.
There was no name, but I didn't need one. The handwriting belonged to her mother. My former best friend's mom. The photo was from years ago. A sleepover. Me and her, tangled in blankets, smiling like the world hadn't learned to break us yet. But in the background, barely noticeable, was Jordan. He was looking at her, not me. It wasn't the look that shocked me. It was the timestamp. That photo was taken before I ever started dating him. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to consider. Maybe it didn't start with betrayal. Maybe I had always been the backup plan. The safer choice. The one who made things easy. She had always drawn attention. Loud, beautiful, magnetic. And maybe he had wanted her first. Maybe I had just been the stand-in until she said yes. That realization stung deeper than the video ever had. Because it wasn't just betrayal. It was invisibility. I was the chapter between theirs, not the story. I didn't cry. I just placed the photo on my desk and stared at it. Not because I needed confirmation of what I suspected, but because I finally understood how deep the lie had gone. They didn't destroy me because they changed. They destroyed me because I never really mattered to begin with. That hurt in a new way. Quiet. Lingering. That night, I got another message. From Ava. Jordan's cousin. She had news. He wasn't gone. He was trying to get back. Back to his old life. He had reached out to her, asking for help finding a job in the city again. He told her he missed familiarity. That he was misunderstood. That the video wasn't what it looked like. She didn't buy it. But she warned me. He might try to contact you, she said. Don't let him talk. He's good with words. He'll twist them like thread. I braced myself. And 2 days later it happened. A message. Just a single one. From an unknown number. But I knew it was him. The language was unmistakable. I know I made mistakes.
Can we talk?
Just once. For closure. I stared at the screen for a long time. I could have ignored it. Blocked the number. Deleted it. But instead, I took a screenshot and saved it. Then I typed a response I never thought I'd send. No. You had your closure when you walked out before the wedding. This is mine. Then I blocked him. Not in anger, but in clarity. And still, the story wasn't over. A week later, I saw her again. Not in person, but in a video. It had gone semi-viral on a community forum. A wedding disaster clip someone had leaked. Blurred faces, but unmistakable details. The moment the video played on the screen, the gasp from the crowd, the sudden rush of voices. People speculating, commenting, guessing. And though no names were used, those who knew, they recognized it. And so did she. She showed up at my door again. Same tired eyes. But this time, she looked different. Not broken. Angry. Not at me. At herself. She didn't speak for a while. Just handed me a flash drive. There's more, she whispered. He lied to me, too. A lot more than we thought. I hesitated.
Took it.
Closed the door. She didn't come in. And I didn't ask her to. Inside the flash drive were files. Conversations. Screenshots.
Videos.
He had been with someone else even during their engagement. Someone from work. A woman who had no idea he was engaged. He had promised her the same things. Said the same lines. It was like watching a play performed for different audiences. Same script. Different costumes. It was pathetic. And infuriating. And sad. And yet, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. Because knowing the truth didn't fix what had been broken. It didn't untangle the years I'd spent trying to prove I was worthy. It didn't erase the nights I blamed myself. It didn't undo the way she had looked me in the eye and lied. But it gave me something else. It gave me permission to stop wondering.
To stop rewinding.
Sometimes closure doesn't come with an apology. Sometimes it comes with silence. Or a file. Or a block number. Or a flash drive you bury at the back of a drawer. I didn't need to watch every file. I didn't want more proof. I already had enough. That weekend, I went away. Just for 2 days. No phone. No internet. Just me, a lake, and a book I never finished. I sat on a dock and watched the water ripple. Thought about all the people I used to love. How they changed. How I changed. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't hardened. I was just quiet, and that felt powerful. When I got back, there was a package at my door. No note, just a box. Inside was a scrapbook, pages full of photos from our friendship, notes she had written, receipts from old coffee dates, a sticky note on the last page. You were the real thing. I'm sorry I didn't see it until it was gone. I closed the book gently, placed it on my shelf. Not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that I had loved deeply and had been real in a world that often isn't. I didn't call her. I didn't text him. I didn't post anything. I just kept living. Quietly. Honestly. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't chaos. It's peace. And I was finally learning how to live in it. Spring crept in like a quiet apology. The city thawed slowly. Sidewalks that were once cold and bitter now felt warmer under my sneakers. The flowers pushed their way through cracks in concrete. And with every morning walk I took, I began to feel more like someone I had forgotten existed, someone untouched by betrayal, unburdened by the weight of having to prove her worth. But healing isn't a straight line, and peace, I learned, is not something you arrive at. It's something you build, piece by piece, and sometimes it shatters without warning. It started with a message from an unknown number again. But this time it wasn't Jordan. It was from someone named Alina. I didn't recognize the name until she explained she was the woman Jordan had been seeing while engaged to my best friend. The one in the office, the one in the flash drive footage. She found my number through a mutual contact who told her what I had been through. Her message was strange, not accusatory, not defensive, just curious. She wanted to know if I had been the one to send the video. I didn't answer at first. I wasn't sure what she wanted from me. Forgiveness? Validation? But something in me said she wasn't like the others. So I replied with a single sentence, "Why do you want to know?" Her response hit harder than I expected. Because he proposed to me last night. And something didn't feel right. He said his past relationships ended because of jealous exes. But I found the footage. He swore it was fake. I need to know the truth, or I'll be the next one. I sat down. That message didn't just shake me. It cracked the floor beneath me all over again. Because it meant he hadn't learned, hadn't stopped, hadn't even slowed down. He was still out there repeating the same script, using different names, different cities, but the same damage. And this time, someone was asking for help before it was too late. I called her.
I don't know why.
I hadn't called anyone in months about this. But I needed her to hear my voice. To know I wasn't just some name in a story he rewrote to make himself the victim. She picked up on the first ring. Her voice was tight, like someone bracing for impact. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I told her the timeline, the truth, how I had found out, how the wedding was destroyed, how her name was just the next placeholder in his pattern. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She went quiet, and I heard the silence on the other end stretch longer than comfort allowed. Then she whispered, "Thank you." I thought that would be the end. But it wasn't. 2 days later, she messaged me again. This time with a photo.
A ring.
On a countertop. Not on her finger. She had left it. Moved out. Blocked him. She didn't want to be the next girl crying over wedding invitations that meant nothing. And then a week later, the news broke. Not on social media. In an industry newsletter. Jordan's firm had dropped him. Someone, no name listed, had submitted proof of fraudulent reimbursements and false identity filings on his financial aid application from years ago. I didn't even know about that part. But someone did. Maybe her. Maybe someone else he wronged. Either way, his name was being erased from the one place he had tried to build prestige. The cracks weren't just emotional anymore. They were visible. Professional.
Permanent.
I should have felt victorious. But I didn't. Instead, I looked around my apartment and realized I hadn't changed much about my space since everything happened. The furniture still sat the same. The dishes still matched the ones we bought. I had cut them out of my heart, but not out of my home. So I started. I sold the couch. Got rid of the wine glasses. Donated the box of keepsakes. I kept the scrapbook she had mailed me, but I stored it on the bottom shelf, out of sight. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I had finally outgrown needing to look at it. One night, while clearing out a drawer, I found a USB drive I didn't remember saving. When I opened it, it was a video diary I had once made, right after the betrayal, back when I thought I needed to document my pain just to believe it. I watched it. My face looked puffy, tired, raw. My voice cracked on almost every sentence. But one thing stood out. I had said, I hope I come out stronger, even if it takes breaking first. I smiled, because I had. And yet the story wasn't over. The final twist came in the form of an invitation. Not to a wedding, but to a panel at a local women's event. A friend of a friend had submitted my name, shared part of my story anonymously. The organizers wanted me to speak about truth, about silence, about reclaiming identity after betrayal. At first, I said no. Who was I to talk about healing? I still flinched when certain songs played. I still avoided certain streets. But then I remembered that the people who speak about pain the clearest are usually the ones still carrying echoes of it. So I said yes. The day of the panel, I stood in front of 50 women. Some younger, some older, all holding pieces of their own stories. I told mine, in simple words. No dramatic language. No need to expose names. Just the truth. What it felt like to be erased. What it took to rebuild. How healing is not a straight road, but a jagged one filled with detours and wrong turns and dead ends. And still, how it's worth walking. Afterward, a girl no older than 20 came up to me with tears in her eyes. She said she had just found out her boyfriend was cheating with her roommate, that she had blamed herself, that hearing me helped her feel less alone. And in that moment, I realized something. Maybe the point of pain isn't to punish. Maybe it's to connect.
To guide. To warn.
To remind others they're not crazy. They're not broken. They're not alone. That night, I came home and lit a single candle. Not for memory, but for peace. I sat at my dining table, the one I had kept after all, and wrote in a new notebook. There's still more to live. There's still more to give. But not to them.
To me. And I meant it.
Summer arrived quietly, without announcement, like a friend slipping through the back door. The city buzzed again, sun warming the streets, laughter bouncing off sidewalks, and it was in that warmth that I finally stopped flinching. It happened subtly. One day I passed the park where we used to picnic and didn't feel anything. I drank a glass of wine without remembering the toast we'd once made on my birthday. I scrolled through my photos and no longer skipped the years that hurt. Pain had stopped being a full-body ache. Now it was a memory. And memories, I had learned, can't hurt you when they've been faced fully. I had expected healing to be triumphant. A thunderclap, a drum roll, a sense of arrival. But instead it was calm. I stopped waiting for apologies. Stopped explaining myself in my head. I didn't need closure wrapped in a speech or written in some heartfelt message. I already had it because I had learned how to move forward without dragging the past behind me. Then, just when I thought nothing else could surprise me, another letter arrived. This one had a return address. Her name, my former best friend. Not a message over text. Not a call. A real letter. Folded.
Inked. Sealed.
My heart thumped once. Not in fear, but in memory. I let it sit on the table for 2 days before I opened it. Inside were 5 pages.
Handwritten. Neat.
Controlled, but shaky in parts. She began with the usual words, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I betrayed you. But then she went further. She explained her side. Not to justify, but to confess. She had known from the very beginning that I had feelings for him, even before we dated. And she admitted something I hadn't expected. He had flirted with her first. Years ago. And she'd said nothing. Back then, she hadn't done anything. But when I got together with him, she felt something she couldn't name. Bitterness. Not about love. About being overlooked. She said, I wasn't in love with him. I just hated how much you mattered. That line sat on my tongue like ash. Because it wasn't jealousy of romance. It was jealousy of visibility. Somewhere along the way, she had grown used to being seen more. Heard more. And when that shifted, She lost her place in her own eyes. She took what wasn't hers not because she wanted it, but because she thought it was the only way to feel worthy again. And then the twist I didn't expect. She was pregnant. Not with his child. Not with anyone I knew. But she wrote that carrying life made her reevaluate what legacy really meant. What kind of woman she wanted to become. She didn't ask for forgiveness. Just honesty. She ended with, "If we never speak again, I understand. But please know, I'm trying to grow from the girl who ruined your life into someone who creates life, not just biologically, but emotionally. I see what I did, and I will never forget it." I folded the letter. Not in anger, not in sadness, but in understanding.
I didn't write back.
But I didn't tear it up either. I placed it in a small wooden box where I keep moments that changed me. Around that time, I saw Lena again, the woman he had proposed to after both of us. We had coffee. There was no bitterness between us, only mutual recognition. Two people who had both stood in the shadow of the same man and walked out on their own. She had started writing a blog about relationship recovery, anonymously at first, and shared that dozens of women had come forward with eerily similar stories. She asked if I wanted to contribute. I said yes. I didn't write about revenge. Or about destruction. I wrote about silence. About the kind of silence that follows betrayal, not the loud kind full of shouting and slam doors, but the silence that creeps into your mind at night and whispers that maybe it was your fault. I wrote about unlearning that voice. About standing up for yourself not with fists or fire, but with facts, with truth, with boundaries. The post went viral. Not overnight, but steadily.
People resonated with it.
Strangers sent messages. Some shared their own stories. Others just said, "Thank you for telling the truth out loud." Then one afternoon, while walking back from the bookstore, I saw him. Jordan. On the other side of the street. He looked different, thinner, older, like life had pressed on him. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did, and looked away. I stood there for a moment, just long enough to know that seeing him didn't hurt anymore. It didn't stir anything. Not anger. Not longing. Not regret.
Just stillness.
And I kept walking. That evening, I set the table for two again. Not because someone was coming over, but because I finally saw the value in keeping space for possibilities. For people who choose you without conditions. For conversations that heal instead of harm. And when the doorbell rang, it wasn't anyone dramatic. It was the guy from the volunteer group. He brought pizza. And a movie. And he didn't ask me about my past. He just asked what toppings I liked. And somehow, that meant more than any deep question. Over dinner, I laughed more than I had in months. Not because of anything he said, but because I wasn't performing anymore. I wasn't trying to prove I had moved on. I had simply moved. Past the lies. Past the need for revenge. Past the silence. That night, as I cleaned up the plates, I remembered something Joy, my younger cousin, had once told me years ago, when I was crying over a different boy who broke my heart. She had been 11 at the time, and she said, "If they don't see your worth, they're looking with broken eyes." I hadn't understood it then.
But I did now.
I didn't need everyone to see me. I just needed to stop hiding from myself. So I opened my window. Let the air rush in. Let the past float out. Somewhere in a drawer, the files still existed. The video, the texts, the receipts. But I didn't need them anymore. I didn't need to prove what happened. I had lived through it, and survived it, and grown past it. Before bed, I lit a candle not for them. For me. Then I wrote a final note in the back of my journal. I didn't ruin their wedding.
They did that themselves.
I just showed the truth. And then I stepped out of their fire, and into my own light. And with that, the chapter closed. Not with rage. Not with revenge. But with clarity.
And peace.